Activate picture link.
It's on my phone, look.
Downloaded right into their heads.
This is the ultimate upgrade, our greatest step into cyberspace.
Otherwise known as
Pull to open.
pull to open.
Yes, and what do you do?
That's my friends at work. Good boys.
I don't need the pitch.
Trust you to cock it up.
It's not just unethical, it's obscene.
Yeah, well, upgrade this.
Here come the drums!
Hello, and welcome to Pull to Open .2. We're a random Doctor Who podcast, fully upgraded from what we were back in 20.25. I'm Pete Paschal.
And my name is Chris Taylor, but that doesn't matter right now because today is all about Pete's World. Today I have found my way to Pete's World. I don't know if you guys remember about a year ago, back in Pull to Open .1, we went to Father's Day, and in my timeline there was a tragic mishap, and we lost Pete, but I found my way back to him through emergency temporal shifts into parallel universes. And I'm here in Pete's World, but Pete, in my world, we didn't record Pull to Open for the last year, so I'm a little rusty on what exactly this podcast is, and maybe there are some new listeners who are feeling the same way, who've just tuned in for the first time. So I know we normally open with previously on Pull to Open, but could you just do like previously on Pull to Open for all of Pull to Open?
Absolutely. I'm happy to kick off 20.26 with some basics on the podcast. So, folks, if you are new here, we are a Doctor Who rewatch podcast, but we have a little bit of a twist. We take on the entire television canon, all 60 plus years of the show, and we do it in random order. And we always, at the end of every podcast, pick the next story that we're going to go to. So one week we might be here in the modern with doing something from Ncuti Gatwa or Jodie Whittaker or Peter Capaldi. And then in the next episode, we'll talk something about like Patrick Troughton or William Hartnell. So just so you know, we definitely encourage you to watch the story or at least be familiar with it before we get into it. We're going to specifically avoid spoilers. We always do up until the point we summarize the show, which just kicks off our commentary. We kick off every commentary with a really super quick summary. I believe they're record fast summaries of every story. And that's when it's a spoiler zone. So if you want to just listen to the first part of the pod up until then without having seen the show, that's fine. So that's a little bit of where Pull to Open has come from and is. And we're going to tell you what that story is. The story
that's
that we're
amazing
talking about this week.
That's amazing because that's almost exactly like the Pull to Open in my universe. We called it the TLDW, that summary that was sort of the spoiler line. Is that the same in this universe?
Well, that's clever. I like that abbreviation. The TL point DW, I believe sometimes we call it.
It's an upgrade. We've removed the semicolon.
Yeah, and if you aren't getting the references in everything we're saying, I'm going to tell you right now exactly which story we're going to talk about. But before that, I think it is important to talk about which stories we've done recently and previously on Pull to Open. A few stories ago, we were back in the William Hartnell era. That was a story with some machines, not machine creatures. They were straight up machines, robots you might call them, and they were terrorizing London from an artificial intelligence in the post office tower. That was, of course, the first Doctor adventure, The War Machines.
The War Machines, yes, in which the machines rise, but not in a very scary way. And it was done by the idea was from one Kit Pedler, who would also have another interesting idea around about that same time. And yes,
that may relate.
Of course, the War Machines, of course, where Doctor Who was referred to as Doctor Who. The character Doctor Who got that name.
Also referred to as Doctor Who in the title of the next story we took on. The only story in the whole canon, which with the words Doctor Who in the title, that was in fact Doctor Who and the Silurians from the famous and well-regarded season 7 of the original series, John Pertwee's first season. And speaking of, things being creepy, the Silurians, not too bad there. A little bit scary down there in the caves. They were rising for certainly, and then kind of went back in. And we've heard from them a few times since.
Their alarm clocks really went off because they realized that their kind were actually being represented on TV again in The War Between the Land and the Sea, which more of our listeners will have seen by the time that this goes out. So, yeah, I think we have to make a decision soon, Pete, in this new Pete's World, whether we're actually going to do a whole episode responding to that. But yes, it was appropriate programming.
I'll tell you what our viewers have not seen, though, which is actually the next story we went to,
Yes.
which was the Second Doctor's second story, The Highlanders, which, of course, is infamously completely missing from the BBC archive. We were only able to experience it, I guess, by watching reconstructions and listening to audios and reading books. So, but still, we got a good sense of what it was, and it was, in fact, the first adventure with the most loyal companion ever, Jamie.
Yes, and we failed to mention, speaking of Jamie, we did that entire podcast. Memories from Pete's World are now flooding in, so I'm now fully integrated Chris Taylor again. I remember, it's coming back to me, we didn't talk about Jamie from Outlander and the whole thing about Outlander being inspired by Jamie McCrum from the Highlanders. We didn't mention that once in the entire podcast.
How did you miss that, Chris? I think we went on and on and on about that in my universe, but...
Oh, wow. Oh, shoot. Okay. I'll go back and re-listen to that contest then. I want to see how my alternate history podcast, History Corner, did in that. But one thing about the Highlanders that was true in all of our universes is that the Battle of Culloden, the British soldiers had a lot of steel.
Ah, yes. Lots of steel. And very appropriately, we went to another place with lots of steel. We steeled away, you might say, all the way to the David Tennant era to take on the story we're going to talk about today. Yes, that's right, folks. It's Series 2, Episodes 5 and 6, Rise of the Cybermen and the Age of Steel.
Yes. We steel ourselves for this in a stolen TARDIS and a stolen Type 40 that may or not be about to break down. We'll find out in a little bit. But first, in my reality, it's time that we go straight to talking about Poll to Open. Now, what happens is you pull from the top of the screen.
No, that's not how we do things here in Pete's World. Yes, that's right. You need to steel yourself now, sir, because we have come to the part of the program where I shove you in a machine, some kind of emoji throwing thing descends from the ceiling and fires tons of emojis your way, and you have to figure out which Doctor Who story those emojis correspond to. That's correct. It's time for the Whomoji Challenge.
No! Wait, on my world, Whomoji was banned as a form of torture.
Well, we do not have those international conventions here. It has not happened. In fact, this is very much encouraged behavior on podcasts in Pete's World. So we have
my AirPods, they'll defend me.
We have some emojis. We have a few left in our reserves, which are getting rather dry. So if you are out there and you are a fan of this segment or a fan of the show or a fan of Doctor Who, we need more emojis. And I'm going to go through this one, which will deplete our reserves even more. We'll tell you a little bit more about how to submit them later. But this one is an 8 emoji Whomoji. So I'm going to try to blaze through it. Are you ready, sir? I can show you that courtesy of asking you if you're ready.
Wait a minute. I think I need to be stripped to my underwear and tied to this chair before this can happen. You need to scan me first. No, I'm ready. Let's do this.
All right. First emoji, a diamond with a dot.
Diamond with a dot. Okay.
Second emoji, a bolt, a lightning bolt.
Okay.
Third emoji, a hot beverage.
Okay.
Fourth emoji, a bomb, a old-timey bomb, the little round one with the little fuse on it. Fifth emoji is a dove.
A dove.
Sixth emoji is a stopwatch.
Ooh.
The seventh emoji is a water buffalo. And the 8th emoji is a baby bottle. I will throw all that in the chat so you can have a good look at those emojis up close. Have you already figured it out, sir? You've got 2 minutes.
What, 2 minutes for a Whomoji? That's crazy. Is that how you do things in Pete's world? No, I think it's okay. I think I've got it figured out because I don't know how bad the Chris in your world was at knowing what these emojis are, but I definitely recognize this one. It's the Time Monster.
It's the Time Monster. Nicely done. Lots of telltale things there for sure. Which one was it that gave it away?
Definitely the baby bottle. Baby Benton at the end. That secured it.
Especially because it's at the end of it all.
You never forget your first baby Benton. But then the crystal and you said there was a dove. And you put an inflection in your voice when you said dove, and that made me think of how bad the bird that was Kronos in the Time Monster was. So I think we were communicating on a telepathic level here, like we were just being upgraded.
Did the water buffalo throw you at all, or was it very clearly like,
yes.
Oh, that's the Minotaur?
Oh, that's the Minotaur.
Yeah.
The water buffalo. I don't know, but water did make me think of Atlantis, so I was already in that in that realm.
Is there a separate bull emoji? I think it probably, if there was a bull, I don't even know. Well,
I mean,
someone write it. I'm not going to Google it right now.
It's probably a very, very clever reference to the fact that the Minotaur and everything else in Atlantis did get a bit watery by the end of things. So yeah, water buffalo is what the Minotaur became.
Okay, well, like I said at the beginning, we are running low on emojis, everyone. Please submit. The best way to submit emojis is through the Apple Podcast app, where you can leave a review, and you can leave your emoji as either the title of the review or the body of the review. You don't even really have to leave any other text. Just put like emoji. An answer key is appreciated. I'll probably reach out if you don't have one, or we might have a fun little guessing game in a future episode of Pull to Open if it's not incredibly obvious.
That is what Doctor Who fans like to do, is they like to debate things endlessly, and some of our Whomoji give us endless opportunities to do that.
You can also submit on social by commenting on one of our posts. We see all of our comments, and we will find it there. Or if you're listening on Spotify, you can actually comment on this podcast. So please just leave it there in a comment, and we'll chat.
Yes, and if you're on Spotify, pull from the top of the screen. No, wait, I'm in Pete's world. Pull from the bottom of the screen, and then you will discover, that's right, Poll to Open, the story that we're talking about right now. You can rate if you already know the Pull to Open rating system, which, hey, look at that, it's exactly the same in Pete's world. And you already want to give that rating to Rise of the Cybermen Age of Steel, you could do that right now. Viscount Bang if you think it's the best Dalek, if it's only a good episode of Doctor Who, etc. But we do look backwards on these polls because they stay open. Time can be rewritten. The war machines can be rewritten. That's what we're looking at today. We're looking at preliminary ratings for the war machines. I don't know if I am going into a German accent because Wotan. Yeah, because everything in the war machines is vaguely German. And the winner... so far, I have to say, it is my choice for president of the War Machines, Professor Hater.
Yeah, man. It's almost as if you hypnotized our listeners into obeying your will and then voting the way you voted. Totally get it. It's kind of a hater. No one voted Fixed Point in Time, which was my choice. A few people, like there was a good, 20% of the voting people said it was the best, one of the best of the best, which isn't entirely shocking. I know this is kind of a favorite of some sect of fandom. I do think it is people who have not seen a lot of the Hartnell's era, to be honest with you. I think it's that's my view.
I think definitely in the wake of World Enough and Time, not the last time I'm going to mention that story, there is way more debate, and perhaps a whole sect of fandom now believes that his name actually is Doctor Who, and they now worship at the altar of the War Machines. where it is said in canon. So yeah, I can believe that sect would be nut jobs enough to rate that a Viscount banger. Yeah. But anyway, we got a 2-minute limit on all our segments. So
oh yes, we're moving on fast now. We have a new segment, actually. Yeah, we're resurrecting kind of an old segment, which we used to do. We're going to have a comment of the week. So if you comment on any of our videos or the podcast itself on social media or YouTube or Spotify, we'd love to interact with you a little more and highlight those interactions here on the podcast. And we had commented when we talked about Doctor Who and the Silurians about the Silurian design. You and I actually kind of disagreed a bit on there, and there's a little bit of a disagreement among the fans. So I defended the Silurians as being the design in the original serial as being the best Silurian design of the entire run. I stand by that. One person, Ethan Melton on YouTube commented on that video and said it basically agreed with me. So I'm highlighting that one, but just to to hammer the point home, it's about that alienness. It's a little easy for someone to sympathize with someone's the face of an alien that looks a lot like a human, and I completely agree. Yeah. And I feel like having that alienness of the original design gives it a bit more of a challenge, and it's a bit more believable that you would dehumanize, so to speak, metaphorically speaking, with both sides would, because they're so different from each other. That said, someone also commented, this was actually from TikTok, it was Tanya, no last name. She said, I see your point, but I'm a big fan of Madame Vastra, which I could say like, I can see it. I would just say that the Madame Vastra stories are obviously not trying to make the same point that the Silurians was. That's all.
Definitely so. And you could argue that the Silurians evolved even in canon, right, to upgrade their appearance for their interactions with humanity. They became a bit more human-like so you could finally have figures like Madame Vastra. I don't know. We'll headcanon that next time we get to the Paternoster gang, who we haven't done yet. No. I don't think, interestingly enough, we haven't even got to them. Right. Certainly, wow, good to know that's also the same in Pete's World. Anyway, so you can support the show on social, Pull to Open on TikTok and Blue Sky, Pull to Open 63 on Instagram, Twitter. Wait a minute, it says X here? It's Twitter somewhere. In my reality. Huh, weird. Most other places on YouTube, you can become a new companion, or, well, we called it that. Apparently here it's called a true companion. Jamie McCrimmon, perhaps even a Rose, if you will.
I get your gimmick now, that every time you slip up, it's because the other world was something else. I'm wise to you now, Taylor. If that is your last name, yes. Your world.
And also, you can't use that gimmick because it's Pete's World, so you're already in it, so you're already familiar with it.
Oh, boy. You got me.
Oh, boy.
Well, here's something you're not going to get out of, sir.
What?
It is time now to begin our commentary. And as we always do on all the worlds, we begin it with a plot summary. And that plot summary needs to be done in record time. So, number one, spoilers ahoy. They are happening now. So if you haven't seen the serial in question, you should probably hit pause, check it out, and then come back. But now, sir, you must summarize Rise of the Cybermen and the Age of Steel in record time. We allot 1 minute for every New Who episode, so you have a full 2 minutes for this story.
It was 2 minutes in my reality.
Yeah, well, the inflation on our reality has been terrible.
Also, I could do it with notes. Is that the same over here?
No notes.
What?
Your desktop must be empty. You need to do this completely from memory, and the more flailing around, the better. If you can't remember why something happens, you can always just kind of put in a for some reason. So that's cool.
Interesting tip.
Sort of encouraged. Okay. Are you ready, sir?
All right. As I'm ever gonna be, I guess. All right, let's do this. 2 minutes.
It is time for the official Pull to Open summary of Rise of the Cybermen and the Age of Steel. And just to punctuate it, I might actually wear this.
Oh my goodness! Wait, what's going to happen? Oh my God, Pete's getting upgraded. No, we can't do that. There isn't a Pete in the other world.
All right,
What?
and because because this helmet's voice changer no longer works, I'm going to just try to talk like a Cyberman when I remind you of things.
You know, this is great. This is like this is reminding me of the sad Cyberman in this story. So thank you. Thank you for, wow, that is very unnerving to stare into those eyes.
The official pull to open summary of Rise of the Cybermen and the Age of Steel in 3, 2, 1, begin.
Okay, so there's this guy called John Lumick, and he's invented this out-of-focus Cyberman, and it kills the scientist that's going to try and stop him. Anyway, meanwhile, Rose and Mickey and the Doctor are traveling, but they're in a parallel world, and the TARDIS has exploded. It's died, except there's a little thing that's going to recharge it, but they've got 24 hours now in this parallel world, which is called Pete's World, because one of the first things Rose sees, after realizing that there's Zeppelins everywhere, is a picture of her dad. He's alive. He's a tycoon, and he's friends with the president of Great Britain, who is also friends with John Lumick, who gets angry at the president and then invades Pete's house on Jackie's birthday with Cybermen. They smash through for the first time, and I'm getting unnerved here because I don't know how long I'm going on for. But anyway, the Doctor and Rose and everything, and Mickey, who has now met Ricky, his alternate universe version from the universe where his grand survived, they get surrounded by Cybermen, but the Doctor uses the TARDIS bit to destroy the Cybermen, and so off they go on the run, and Mickey's with the what they call the preachers, and but Ricky dies, so Mickey basically becomes him, and he's got Ricky's friend, and they're in an airship, and Ricky saves the day. He infects all the Cybermen with this thing that the Doctor discovers, which is how to block their emotions. Are you giving me 30-second updates here, or what's happening?
End time. Okay.
Seriously?
I actually have no idea if that was 2 minutes. I realized after I put it on,
you can't see 2 minutes.
I couldn't see the timer anymore, and so I considered making up the time fragments, and I just figured you would figure it out. So I believe you got to the airship and Mickey saving the day.
Yes. Yes.
So that's great.
But yes,
and that's good enough.
Mickey
didn't do you didn't do the thing where they get in the TARDIS and all the other stuff, the sort of denouement.
Yes.
We'll fix it in post. We'll fix it in post. It's going to be fine.
We'll get there. We'll get to talking about Mickey and Ricky.
Yeah.
And the question of whether the Doctor calling him Ricky from the very beginning of Rose was actually foreshadowing. He somehow knew in some bad wolf way about Ricky. Anyway, let us talk about this story and the reintroduction of the Cybermen into New Who, because that feels like the headline here. I feel like we don't want to start with anywhere else but to talk about not even Pete's World, not even going into Rose's parallel reality that created this need, but the fact that the Cybermen are from a parallel reality, and what genius that was. I think we both agree on that, right?
Totally. So exactly. This is obviously notable for the sort of first proper appearance of the Cybermen in the new series. They had seen the head, the cyber head, that was sort of a revenge style head in Van Statten's museum the season before, which you could argue was, obviously it was kind of foreshadowing. I'm sure they knew if this was a successful series, they would bring back the Cybermen at some point. The first series, obviously did gangbusters. So they're like, okay, they did such a great job with the Daleks. Let's reintroduce the Cybermen. And the thing with the Cybermen is that they have kind of this convoluted history in classic Who. They also have this weird origin that they're not from Earth. They're from a parallel sort of Earth, like Mondas. And there's a lot of debate on and then they sort of introduced a new homeworld to tell us. Anyway, there's a lot of baggage with the classic Cybermen. So, and the thing is, fundamentally, the Cybermen are supposed to be this very obvious metaphor for human technology, like technology run amok, and turning humans into the very machines that they are using. It's not even. It's too much to even say it's like cliche or something. It's just that's what it is, And so the fact that they're not from Earth, that they're not human, is a little weird, right? That's the metaphor, that they're so hell bent on converting humans when they're not even from Earth. So I love the idea of the parallel world version of this being the introduction of the Cybermen, because it simplifies all of that. It gets to redo an origin for new viewers, so you don't have to have, even though they do obviously explicitly talk about the history that the Doctor has. It's just mentioned really in the second episode where he says there's Cybermen in our universe.
Right.
But it just simplifies all that, and it makes them from Earth. That to me is like the big thing here, where it's like, oh yes, they're humans that went awry. And in later stories, like particularly the what was it, World Enough in Time, The Doctor Falls, sort of make what this story implies explicit, which has always been a theory that fans had about the Cybermen, that they're actually not like from a planet. They're just something that can happen to races when they get a certain level of technology, and they can sort of become robots, which is obviously an anomaly, but it's like it can just happen. And so there's like I think the 12th Doctor even says there's no master plan. It's just humans plus technology minus humanity. And that's it. That's exactly right here. So in one fell swoop, it just completely simplifies everything and gives them a great clean slate to start the Cybermen, which I thought was awesome.
I mean, you could argue, we are going to argue whether this deserves shelving with Dalek, the reintroduction of the Daleks, the best of the best. But you could certainly argue, couldn't you, that over time in New Who, the fact that the Cybermen have been introduced this way, I mean, there's so much more to be done with that. They are, I would argue, looking at a brighter future than the Daleks in the future in Doctor Who. You and I were on a panel recently about the future of the Daleks. Are they scary anymore? And the problem of them being a little bit one note. Well, Cybermen, and especially the notion that they're coming around everywhere, like that sort of notion, every civilization has a Cyberman moment where, like, maybe it's like nuclear war, like maybe most civilizations don't cross that threshold, and it's definitely, as time goes on, as we get deeper into the age of AI and all of the hallucination problems therein, as we get into what Cory Doctorow calls the enshittification of technology, and you could argue that's what Cybermen are. It's like, it's like sort of the upgrades, the constant upgrades that we do with tech, whether or not it's better, tends to produce a movement towards the worse and the nastier and the less emotional. I think that doing this has made me realize I love Pull to Open because I rewatch stuff. When I first watched this in 2006, right? I was like, okay, yeah, I get it, that's funny. double Bluetooth headpieces, that's crazy. That'll never happen. And yet this is it feels like this is the one that predicted the future, and we did in a way we didn't realize, right? And here I am with I'm not going to name the headphone company because they aren't sponsoring us, but I just got my latest set of AirPods recently, well, a couple of days ago. Absolutely love them. I don't even know they're in. I don't even, because they're on, like they're not even in ear. They look like earrings. I mean, it's crazy where we're going. It's crazy where we're going with all the upgrades. And I want to talk to you about, I want to ask you about spare parts, because I don't think we should go too far without acknowledging that that's sort of the inspiration for this, but really more sort of the inspiration for World Enough in Time in a lot of ways. Yeah,
I'd say World Enough in Time is closer, even though obviously it was sort of probably kept in mind for this one. So tell us, for listeners who don't know what spare parts is. I did, or even World Enough in Time. I mean, World Enough in Time is the sort of the finale of the Capaldi era. It has a lot of the Mondasian Cybermen, so it has the original Cybermen in that one. And it talks about sort of another origin for them on board a ship. Spare Parts actually is a Big Finish audio that goes back, and it's highly regarded as one of the best Big Finish audios. But it goes back, and actually it's essentially Genesis of the Cybermen, which they never did in the classic series. They did Genesis of the Daleks, but they never did Genesis of the Cybermen. They never actually went back to Mondas when the Cybermen were emerging, and this is what that story does. I don't want to speak too much about spare parts because obviously this is not about that. But the idea of like the origins of them, and I'll say the echo of spare parts that's here is nicely put through the lens of what you were talking about with our relationship with technology, to talk about upgrading, the fact that they call themselves Human Point 2, which is, I don't know if that was a mistake or intentional. I felt like Human 2.0 would have been more appropriate, but either way, I get it. And there's almost like, it's not quite a manifesto, but like when the Cyberman is in Rise of the Cybermen talking to the president, and he's describing sort of kind of the great deal humans have. All humans will get a free upgrade, and then upgrading is compulsory. You know, all that language of tech, of big tech in terms of service and whatever else, is kind of there and hinted at. So it's all great. And so to get back to the spare parts thing, there's a few lines I haven't listened to it in quite some time, but the logic of the Cybermen, where this race is kind of dying because the planet no longer has a sun and they're underground and they're using what little resources they have just to stay alive, and that's why they turn to cybernetic parts and becoming Cybermen. Right. But the Cybermen, of course, then sort of have a mind of their own, and they're basically like, their logic is, all of this would be way easier if you all just became Cybermen, like, which is kind of like exactly what they say here. Again, I really like this episode for giving more there to the Cybermen than just, they're sort of a scary stomping robot creature, like they're not just a villain of the week. And so it's in Age of Steel where Lumic asks one of the Cybermen, "What do you think?" And it's just sort of, "We're uniform. We think the same." And then, "But what do you think about?" And it says something like, "Well, we think of the humans. We think of their pain, that the sort of prison of the flesh," or I forget exactly what the line is. But it's like, oh, yeah, they're not evil. They're just trying literally to upgrade. They're just trying to make everybody better. And that is the sort of essence of them in both of those adventures, and it really carries over strongly.
And I'm so glad that they explore that in both adventures. By the way, closing note on spare parts. Absolutely listen to it. I listened to it last night. Don't recommend listening to it at night because it is creepy AF and it's sad. There are a lot of sad moments of cyber conversion in there where you slowly realize that's what's happening.
Well, there are here too, and we'll get to those.
Yes, there are. Absolutely. They're definitely drawn from that. We get to the Doctor and genocide. Holy crap. What he does here, arguing what that actually is. But I do want to have another mention of Pluribus, which is something that our audience may have watched. It is, to my mind, one of the best science fiction of recent years because it takes a lot of tropes and reverses them. Basically the idea of the whole show is, what if zombies but nice? What if everyone in the world basically got an upgrade at the same time, and they're all telepathically connected, and they just have this biological imperative to change the last humans into them, because they're like, why wouldn't you? We feel sorry for you. You're not part of this. So it's all about the resistance to that. But watching the whole thing of Pluribus and then going back and watching this, my best Doctor Who friend and I turned to each other watching this on the couch and we're like, oh, it's a Pluribus, isn't it? It's like, it's Pluribus, but they're a bit angrier and nastier and they all wear metal suits. So, kudos to Doctor Who for getting there first. And I think this is really, as we debate what the future of the show is, I think there is so much potential in the Cybermen that I didn't see until I saw this. But now, seeing Rise of the Cybermen, Age of Steel again, it spun off so many thoughts. It made me really want to watch World Enough and Time again, and just sort of zero in on kind of the sadness and the creepiness of that as well. Like, feels like every time you revisit Cybermen, you can upgrade the quality of the story.
Oh, right? Absolutely. There's upgrading all around. Yeah, and by the way, everyone listening, like, we're going to get to the story and the characters soon. I just think, like, because this is so notable for the Cybermen, I think it's good to just sort of talk about it and exactly what it gets right, and it gets so much right.
We're starting with the Zeppelin's eye view.
Yeah, totally. So with the Cybermen, what we've been talking about with regard to all the tech language and how it sort of gives this sort of dark mirror to our relationship with technology, obviously. they maybe go take it a step too far with the delete catchphrase, which we should talk about because it's clear from this story they kind of wanted that to become something along the lines of exterminate, and it has to a certain degree. Like they have used it many times. I actually couldn't remember, so I actually looked back at the Power of the Doctor, the transcript of that, and they do say you be deleted and that sort of thing. So it has become sort of inherent to the Cybermen stories. Though I do think there was a bit of a backlash to it because it's not exterminate. It's not something you run around screaming, and it's a kind of less fun because of that. So while I sort of see both sides. It's like, oh yes, it makes total sense. That would be their way of thinking about killing people, but that's why it works, because it's similar to. I always think of this line from a classic Star Trek episode, "What Are Little Girls Made Of?" where the Captain Kirk is talking about how these robots on the planet are killing each other. And it's like they're killing each other off with no more thought than turning off a light, which is exactly, the Cybermen's point of view. Yeah, you kill whatever, it doesn't matter. There's no morality to it. But because of that, it's not something you yell. So it's really just, it's about as interesting to them as like, a line on a spreadsheet. So it's effective if it's used that way. If it's done in the way it's done, like at the end of the first episode of this one in the cliffhanger, they can do it, delete, but it's like, them running around yelling that word kind of doesn't work on some level with the Cybermen.
Yeah, the stomping works. I like the idea of a catchphrase. I like it works within the context of the story because the Doctor has that whole thing about, where he's talking to Mickey over which I didn't mention the TLDW. He talks to Mickey over the camera, gets him to figure out the reprogramming of the emotional inhibitor. But he has this whole thing where he's like, oh yeah, delete, I love that key. And also, but my favorite key, I love hash, and I love the key send. Which isn't actually a key that I can see on the keyboard. But
so all of that's great. Again, and I'm going to say one last thing about the Cybermen, because you've already sort of just mentioned it in the Stomp, because it is similar to, it's directly related to the design. So again, it's another thing I think they get really right here, in that it gives the Cybermen's signature thing isn't so much that catchphrase or saying delete, it's that stomp. It is like, oh, these things are tanks. Yes. And it's more has to do with the sound design than the actual design of the monster, I'll agree. But it is like, it's such a simple thing to emphasize what the Cybermen are and also get you out of jail in terms of like, well, why don't the Cybermen ever run or move? Well, it's obvious just from that they've traded maneuverability for durability, and they're heavily armored. They're all bulletproof, which is great. They should be. Like, there's a couple classic episodes where like bullets actually did something to them. They shouldn't. They should be completely made of steel, and they are. And it's a great design of sort of like, okay, they're just industrial level humans, right?
Yes, I do love the idea that RTD banned any use or thoughts of the word silver.
Yeah, exactly.
which would eventually be lost by the Moffat era. We had Nightmare in silver again, but he's like, no, they're steel, and I think he's right. You do need that sort of, you don't need the crinkly tinfoil kind of. Love you, 80s Cybermen. Love you, excellent Cybermen. But so many decisions were made here about them, about the design that has obviously lasted, throughout most of New Who because it's so strong. That keeping the teardrop was such a great idea. Making them look a bit more imposing. And apparently, according to those who wore the costumes, making the crotch more maneuverable was really a big thing. And actually, as you just discovered, it's hilarious that you put the cyber head on and then you just couldn't see what the time was for the TLDW. That was their experience as well. Like, there were a number of cyber domino incidents on set, apparently, where they just...
Everyone said they couldn't see a thing. Absolutely. You put this on, the voice changer helmet, you barely see anything. I also had my glasses off, so there's that too. But to the credit of the show and the crew working on it, like nice choreography. Like when all the Cybermen are marching together, they move, the way they were very mechanically, particularly certain scenes like the one in the cooling tunnels where the Doctor and Mrs. Moore are walking by this big strip of Cybermen and they all kind of turn one at a time in sort of domino fashion. Very cool. Very cool.
That was very cool. I love Mrs. Moore, by the way. She's sort of the Cybermen wake up just as she's saying what her real name is. And I looked at my friend and I said, does this mean are Cybermen activated by gossip? It was like, the tea is being spilled in Deep Freeze 6. Anyway, that's kind of what that felt like. Also, Mrs. Moore, I got to say, kind of there to justify what is arguably a very horrible thing that the Doctor does of removing the emotional inhibitors of all the Cybermen. That's how this works. And this is after they've just got to know Sally Phelan, who is the woman.
The converted woman.
The converted woman.
Yeah. That's good. That's Well, this is a good transition because it's going to be talking about the Cybermen and the characters a bit. So one of the things that was always missing to a large extent in the classic series was the idea of conversion. And I talked about this when we talked about Attack of the Cybermen because it was really the first time in the series they had really shown the process. Like obviously the idea was there. They'd shown bits of it here and there, but that was the big conversion episode. This one does it from the get-go because honestly, such a good choice because the conversion of humans is exactly why the Cybermen are so horrific, right? Like they're us just converted, and the way this story makes it so explicit, it's just like, well, what are there parts of people? It's like, no, just the brain. They even talk about how the rest of the body is incinerated. Like that's said on it, like an announcement in the factory, like human parts are to be incinerated. So they literally just take your brain out, put it in a suit of armor, and then burn your body. Like, holy cow, what horror! And the thing is that happens to obviously Sally Phelan, who you obviously feel for, and all of that stuff where she's talking about how cold she is, and the Doctor kind of like puts her down. But of course, finally, like this is one of the most sort of triumphant, horrifically triumphant moments of the Cybermen ever, is when that one Cyberman walks up and says, "I was Jackie Tyler." Like, like you're just gut punched there because that's the whole reason. Pete and Rose are there. They're trying to save her. And the moment you say it, like, it's like, you're kind of like in Pete's mind. Like, could you reverse it? It's like, no, they've just spent the whole story saying this is 100% irreversible. Like, I mean, how could you? Right. Like, and you're just like, oh, so sad. And then even when they turn around, they don't even know which one is her. It's like, it's just hits you and hits you and hits you. And it's really just like, they had to do it because to get across how formidable the villain is, how terrible they are, like to really have those stakes hit home for the viewers. Such a great choice when that happens.
It really was. The only better thing could be to have had the focus on a brain somewhere, so you really just sort of visually know what has happened. When they convert Lumic, when he becomes the new cyber controller, he has, I believe, though, he has like a transparent brain situation. Like they're showing off
it's a
his
little
brain,
more
Morbius style.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And they sort of amplified that even more with Cyber Leaders later. And I think the next Doctor is the first one where the Cyber Leader has a transparent head.
As someone with absolute brain phobia, that gets me. And I could fault little about the direction here. It's so extraordinary, but I think more focusing on an actual brain in that moment, so that when you see Jackie and you realize that's just Jackie, that's Jackie's brain in there.
Right.
So we have a greater sense of what we're doing. But then that might also make it a bit too real when the Doctor basically kills all these people by driving them mad.
Right. I mean, obviously this is what led to, in some ways, like the debate that your thing you're feeling and debate we would have over this, whether it's justified or not. It sort of leads to the believability of the later episode, which we're not going to talk about too much because, where the reason the Cybermen end up penetrating to our world, right, is because there is a debate on Pete's world. Like, wait, what should we do with them? I mean, they're still kind of people, and it obviously turns out to be a mistake. So Yeah, I mean, I guess, like it's a really hard thing because, yeah, they would go insane and they all blow up. But again, they're all like, are they people? I don't know anymore. I think you kind of have to give them the benefit of the doubt if they weren't hell bent on killing and conquering everyone, and sort of revamps a little bit from the Silurian debate, right, between the Brigadier and the Doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough call.
And this is the only reason why Mrs. Moore, who in an earlier version of the script died earlier, she's basically there to say to the Doctor, when he says, I think it would kill them, could we do that? There's no have I the right.
Right.
He needed a Mrs. Moore with him in Genesis of the Daleks, going, you've got to. You've got to before they kill everyone else. There's no choice, Doctor. It's got to be done.
Exactly.
Now, if Sarah Jane had said that, I don't think... I don't think we'd be looking at Daleks today.
Yeah. So we should
eventually kill them.
Transition a little bit away from the direct Cybermen talk and
Yes.
talk a little bit more about the story and the setup here with the parallel world and all the character stuff that sets up.
Yes, yes, indeed. I did want to go to John Lumick because we were talking about insanity.
Sure.
Because of course he's in it first, and he's the big kind of the big star, Roger Lloyd Pack. I feel like every time we mention John Lumick or John Lumick appears on screen, we need a trigger warning. That's a joke for you fellow Brits, because he plays Trigger in Only Fools and Horses. Pete, are you aware of Trigger? Do you know what we're talking about? Have you heard about the Trigger?
I'm not at all familiar with Trigger.
So the thing, Only Fools and Horses, one of the most popular sitcom ever to never leave the UK and never catch on anywhere else. There's a character called Trigger, played by and so recognizably by Roger Lloyd Pack. Yeah, he tries to bug his eyes out here to look different from Trigger, but he's still Trigger. And the thing about Trigger was, like, in every sitcom, there's a character who's stupid, and you laugh at him being stupid. Very rare does the character have like just the deadpan of Trigger. Like Trigger, Roger Lloyd Pack, he's a very intelligent looking man, and that's the key with Trigger, is that you think that he could be about to say something smart until he opens his mouth. And then he just delivers this thing deadpan, which has some Trigger logic to it. But anyway, he's trying to not be that, but I like his choice to go mad, basically, with Lumick. I'm a little sad that we never get to learn what he's dying of, right? That's not actually...
Yeah, to my knowledge, I mean, he's obviously disabled. I don't know, maybe it's ALS or something, but although that's not really fatal right off the bat, so probably not.
There's a persistent rumor that he was in a wheelchair because he broke his leg just before shooting, but that's not actually true. He was supposed to be in a wheelchair anyway.
So, yeah, Lumick, I think the performance is fine. I don't think it's crazy, and I think there are a couple parts that take you out of it. I do think his chuckle at the end of Rise of the Cybermen is a little too mustache twisting. It's all you don't see it trying to be Anthony Ainley there for a minute. But I and also like his whole plan, like it's an understatement to say it escalates very quickly.
It does escalate very quickly.
From a like, hey, it's longevity to, hey, I want this species to conquer the world and control and convert all people. Like, and if you think about that even for a second, I mean, it's a whole level of nuts above nuts. Like, seriously, like compare it to like the James Bond megalomaniacs who all want to like destroy the world, but usually rebuild some version of humanity over what's left, or what, like think about Moonraker and Drax or what have you. Here, Lumick thinks it's preferable to turn everyone on the planet into a cold, lifeless robot that's never going to feel emotions. And that just seems, if you're not already a Cyberman, that just seems like, why would any person ever think that's a good idea? That's very strange, like that's a level of nuts that is beyond even your general megalomaniac. And you also have to wonder a little bit.
That.
Yeah, well, go ahead.
You say that,
one more shot
and I thought that in the world of 2006, I thought John Lumick was over the top. In 2026, I'm not so sure. We've had our share of tech megamaniacs since then. There are a lot of people who are very afraid of what certain tech tycoons can do with this planet, and the fact that Lumick goes around feeling that he has complete kind of, it's taken as read that he will never be caught. The law will never lay their finger on him. He's just too rich, too powerful. Did you notice his stock doubled when he came back to the UK, his stock doubled. It was already it's like Nvidia going from 4 trillion to 8 trillion. Because
Nvidia pretty much went from 2 to 4 trillion in a very short period of time, not overnight, but it was very quick.
Okay, so yeah, more believable.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess I'm saying it just doesn't make I hear you on the whole tech titan stuff. As whatever your thoughts on Elon Musk, I really don't think he wants us all to become like literal machines right now, or whomever you might be thinking of, whether it's Sam Altman, etc. So, yeah, okay, all right, settle down, dude.
I mean, definitely there are transhumanists out there who do want to convert us bit by bit.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps. But my issue with it in the story is that his henchman, or rather his number one, is sort of executive officer Crane, seems to have a complete picture of what Lumic is planning. He is the person recruiting people to become Cybermen. He obviously knows these Cybermen are being created with people against their will and is on board with that. I don't know if he's fully on board with the world conquest aspect of it. That might have been new. But in any case, it seems a little wasteful and stupid for Lumic to just have him become human cannon fodder, right? Like basically his ear pods activate and, he whips them out before he can be hypnotized into going into a conversion facility, which is like, well, why don't you just have Crane work for you? He's already on board with all this evil. Like, I mean, how is it really much more to like have him conquer the world with you?
Yeah, it's funny to say it, but and to harp on it, but I do think now, the more I think about it, if we knew what Lumic was dying of, we'd understand a bit better. It might make a bit more sense. Like if it was something, totally uncurable, or if he's... First of all, it's a nice bridge from the Jerry Davis Kit Pedler idea of replacing organ parts, which is what inspired them. And maybe we could have that. Maybe he could be more of a sad figure, is basically what I'm saying. Like, you understand, because like maybe he's had 3 or 4 organs replaced and he's still dying, he's just a little bit more detail on what he's been through and why he is now turning to this might deal with those, off the charts logical conclusions from how he's working. Yeah. But thanks for bringing up Crane. I think he's in many ways a little bit of the MVP of this whole plot and of the of the resistance, because he does choose his moment.
Right at the end, because he's about to be killed, and he's the guy who pushes, tries to kill Lumic, and then the Cybermen finish the conversion, which is like, you didn't think of this, buddy? Like, I'll only convert in my last breath. Well, that could be arranged, like, boom.
All right. Well, you wanted to talk parallel world. You wanted to talk Pete's
and characters. I feel like we've spent so much time raving about the Cybermen and some of the brilliance of the story and the setup of it. More the setup of the story, because I think there are some issues with the story. But I really like both Billie Piper and Noel Clarke in this. I think they both make some great choices. Billie Piper, let's start with her. She says so much when she doesn't say anything. Like, she is so expressive, and she's got those big eyes, and the fact that she spends a lot of like the beginning of the first part just kind of looking at her phone and thinking, I think that's a really smart choice. There isn't like a lot of emotional back and forth with her and the doctor. In fact, the doctor is probably more emotional about her not going to see her father or her parallel father.
He is weirdly, isn't he?
Than she is, like, in terms of emotion, like expressed the way she's doing. So you really relate to it, because it's like she really wants to do this thing, but she's worrying in her mind, like, how do I justify this? And she's sort of making up reasons in her head on why she should go. Like, it's very, very relatable. And obviously Billie Piper is probably maybe the most relatable companion they've ever had. But she's really, really good when she gets to the dinner or the party, and her exchanges with both her father, or Pete, as well as dark Jackie.
Yeah,
they kind of soften the blow of her being converted later by having her be just a really bad person,
just like a dick to the waitstaff. Yeah.
Oh, terrible. And but I also like that parallel of she has a nice exchange with Pete, which sort of almost mirrors what her connection with him was in Father's Day. And then she's sort of emboldened by that to go talk to Jackie. And then immediately she just smacks her down, and you're just like, ooh, like that hurt. And you're really sympathizing with her then. Very smart performed by everyone, by both Billy Piper and Camille Koduri.
Caudry, yeah. And Sean Dingwall as Pete Tyler, brilliant. I love, by the way, this version of Pete doesn't even know where there is. He doesn't go there. He has no concept of there. As you know, the weird problem of Father's Day when he starts sitting on Rose. Like there's none of that. But yeah, I don't know. I wanted them to do a bit more with Pete. He's sort of a bit nudged out by the necessities of the plot. But holy cow, I want to talk about that opening for the TARDIS lands. From the TARDIS lands, they get out, they see the Zeppelins, which is the CGI on the Zeppelins really holds up.
Yeah, it's decent.
And it's, it would have been nice for Michael Moorcock to get a shout out and for, us to talk about why Zeppelins are, puts on nerd glasses, the sort of the standard trope of like parallel world. Oh, this is a world where people fly in Zeppelins.
Yeah, it's a trope for sure, but most normies aren't familiar with the trope.
And it just gets us there immediately. And then they see Pete's picture on the ad, and that gets us there immediately. And none of it feels forced. In 2 minutes, you've set up the entire episode.
Yeah, it's brilliant use of shorthand throughout this whole thing. They convey so much with not just dialogue, like showing things. It's a great example. Show, don't tell. Use the medium. Super smart. I will say the stuff at the beginning where the TARDIS is dead, I actually think Tennant sells it really, really well. It does set up something that I think eventually becomes a little bit of a problem, and for me personally, a bit annoying of the whole, I can just breathe out regeneration energy whenever into this TARDIS component. And here it didn't feel as bad. Like I thought, okay, like maybe in some scenarios, and of course, every writer and showrunner subsequently sort of would not just do that again, but amplify what you could do with that. And it's just like, I don't know if that's becoming something that I want. That said, I do like his little bit where he's like worth every second when he says he's gotten rid of 10 years of his life by regenerating. I guess it's regenerating the TARDIS component.
Which I have to say, we'll get to why the randomizer brought us here, but I felt the randomizer shouting us out, calling us out there, because so far we've spent about 5 years of our lives on this random adventure. We're about halfway there. It's probably going to take 10, but yes, 10 years of my life, worth every second.
Nice.
Yes.
There you go.
We'll get to that. But yes, I do think Tennant sells the death of the TARDIS. I don't know that he sells seeing the Cybermen again.
Oh, really?
In this reality. It's just like, maybe it's the fact that Chris Eccleston was such a hard act to follow in this respect. The fear that he shows in Dalek, of the Daleks. But when I see Tennant looking at the new Cybermen for the first time, I don't see that sort of level of fear. Like, he should be, like, this is the first time he's seen the Cybermen, like, emerge on a new world. There should be something more in his face there. Instead,
maybe there should have been an extra line. You're caught up in it. What I was more admiring at the time was the sort of entrance, and I sort of talked about this in Daleks in Manhattan, where, I mean, the title of the episode is Rise of the Cybermen. We know it's going to be Cybermen. We know that thing in the cold open is a Cyberman. They don't show it, which it can be maybe even a little frustrating, but it's obviously they're going to have like a big reveal. If you're a fan of the show, I remember at this point they had actually revealed the design online to sort of end run leaks. So, you've probably already seen it, but you haven't really seen it. Even if you're a hardcore fan and you've seen the picture, you haven't heard the stomp, you haven't seen the choreography, you haven't seen the lighting, you haven't seen them smash through windows. That is the entrance when they have that big, and then really the moment is when it just comes in focus, right? Because they're just line of Cybermen all out of focus. And then you finally see them like a few seconds before they smash in. So honestly, I was more caught up in that, the Cybermen reveal, than the Doctor's reaction. And I will grant you, it's not as good as it probably could have been. He could have had more of a fear of a line, but there's a bit of, I need to find where Rose is, take her hand, and then suddenly they're just in the thick of it. So, yeah.
It is nice that it gives us that cliffhanger, though. Maybe it explains the cliffhanger. The Doctor thinks, he can just surrender.
Yeah.
And just get out of this. But
that's what I thought. You know, as they even set it up. They said like when the Cyberman is explaining things to the president, he's like, "You're all going to get a free upgrade. Just come with us." And then it's only when he refuses that they start killing people. So the obvious solution, I think, not just to fans, is like, "Oh, just tell them you're surrendering. Just tell them you're going to go with them." And I like that they write themselves into a corner to some extent by just that's too obvious. We need another obstacle. We need that can't work. Because it's too obvious. And so I love that the Cybermen say, screw this, we're going to delete you anyway. But then the component thing barely works, I'll say. It's a bit of a deus ex machina, and that's this TARDIS component can just suddenly destroy them all, which makes sense. It's Gallifreyan technology, sure, and you could, I guess, weaponize it. But it's so convenient that it, like, atomizes just the Cyberman, and you see the beam, it hits the first Cyberman, and then it just sort of bounces to all the other ones around. You're just like, okay, well, I guess that's what that does if you need it to.
There's that telepathic connection between all of them. I guess that's how that's working.
Sure.
But yeah, we should definitely talk about Mickey and Ricky.
Absolutely.
The main feature.
Kind of the heart of the story.
Yeah, the heart of the story, the main feature of the parallel universe. It is nice that Mickey finally finds someone who he can love more than Rose, himself. Another version of himself. And when he's checking himself out, and he's got him stripped down to his underwear there, and he's looking good, and he's checking. You would kind of develop a bit of a thing for yourself. But of course he has to die, and then there is a deleted scene that makes it more explicit that he is actually the boyfriend of, and that Mickey is now the new boyfriend of the other. The Geordie, I should say, the Geordie actor who, as in from Newcastle, from County Durham, actually, from my part of the world, my part of England, that guy who's also in the Preachers. Jake, that's his name.
Jake is great. We all like Jake. Such a cool, he's a young, good-looking guy. He's almost companion. Him and Mrs. Moore they're great. They're both great.
He's a little too Billy Idol. I did want to start singing White Wedding at a few points.
Yeah, he has that reaction to Ricky's death, and it's obviously that it's either a very deep friendship or there's something more there. Mm-hmm. I like actually that it is kept not explicit, and that it's you could read it however you like, and it's not trying to sort of make some kind of statement or whatever.
Yeah. I think on a holiday to Paris at the end. Yeah, we should also mention that.
Yeah, I mean, it does like
Rose.
Well, it also it's kind of like it brings up sort of an uncomfortable bit of like, well, if this is genetic duplicate of Ricky, like down to like every detail is the same, and one's gay and one's not, like, what are you trying to say about gayness? Let's just not go there. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think it's fine that it's not explicit, and I do think like obviously Jake comes around, and I do love the final exchange. It's really cleverly written, where he goes, what, you and me in a van, and he's like, yeah, I once saved the universe in a big yellow truck. And it's like, that's a great little line. So Ricky / Mickey gets a lot of good lines.
The only callback in this entire episode, even like the first half of season 2, to that whole Bad Wolf thing. Rose became all of time and space for a moment. She absorbed the vortex or whatever the hell happened there. But nice shout out. Nice that Mickey got that send off, or at least we thought it was a send off at the time.
Yeah. Well, it really is. I mean, this is the culmination of Mickey's storyline. I mean, yes, he comes back in the season finale, as we all know. Sorry for everyone who hasn't seen that, but it's not, that story is not about him. This one is about him. This is the last story, and really the only story that's really focused on Mickey. And you think about the character, like what a cardboard cutout, or I guess plastic cutout, if you think about the Rose, the story Rose. What a just stock coward he was in that story, and how far that character's come by this point. And he has, so many great moments, particularly the one where he just finally in Age of Steel is like, what, you forgot about me again, and sort of mirroring the opening scene. And he's just like, makes his choice. No, I'm coming, and I'm coming to help you, Jake, even though Jake's really mad at him because he's the face of the person that was either his lover or his best friend, right? So it's, just really good. I gotta say, Noel Clarke makes a lot of great choices as Mickey. As Ricky, he has a permanent scowl that becomes a little bit of a caricature, I have to say. I think I get it. It makes it very distinct, even though they both have the exact same haircut, which is a hell of a coincidence. But the scowling and the sort of semi-Batman voice he kind of does, it's like there's a point where it gets a little too much. I think Ricky dies at the appropriate time so that it doesn't get too much.
And I also like that Ricky is that is explicitly a front, really, the Ricky style. And it's a front because he's only London's most wanted for parking tickets. And I love it. One of my favorite lines of dialogue from this is where he has the exchange with the doctor. It's like, park anywhere I want. That's my form of resistance. And the doctor's like, yeah, same, basically.
That is one of the best lines in the whole thing.
Yeah, that's my philosophy. Something like that.
The Mickey Ricky thing's really good. I got to say, like, all the stuff between, because it's a sort of a bit of a love triangle, and you kind of have to backread a little bit from this, that Mickey was thinking maybe I could show Rose I'm the somebody or I'm brave if I travel with her, right? And then this is kind of the moment where he realizes he can't. And I do like particularly the opening scene kind of emphasizes that, right? Where the doctor and Rose are laughing, the doctor's forgotten about him, and
he's holding a button down for 30 minutes. We should say that. Poor Mickey, holy crap! I mean, talk about there are a number of things in this episode that sort of tip the doctor over into being too much of a dick, and that might be. Well,
and I like that how Mickey reacts. Like, he's annoyed properly in the moment, but he doesn't get pissy with him. Like, he only kind of just reminds him a couple times, like, I'm a person too. Yeah, you're worried about Rose being tempted. Like, I have a life. But he doesn't even say it in that way that I just did, which is a little bit dickish, right? He kind of like goes like 24 hours. I love it when he says, well, we got 24 hours. It's like, 24 hours, okay, I'll see you. And he's like, Mickey, where are you going? And I love that. That's a neat little moment where they're both leaving. He's like, got to pick one of us to go after. I know it's not going to be me. And he's like, of course, he's 100% correct.
Absolutely. And he sees the doctor for what he is. And you got to say that there's a certain subset of companion that leave because they're happy to, and it just sort of all figures it out. But by the way, I'm just remembering that I did ask the randomizer for a packed TARDIS, one that was as packed as at the end of the Highlanders, where we had 3 companions. It was almost there. I mean, Rose almost took Pete back. It made Pete want to look in the TARDIS and be a companion, and Mickey was also there, so it could have been pretty crowded there.
We have a ton of notes I didn't get to. I think we need to sort of. I have some questions to ponder, but before that, I need to just give a little bit of a shout out to one line that I really liked, just because I feel like it's very relatable, which was when the doctor and Rose are walking, and Rose is relating what happened with Mickey's gran, and she says, "You never asked," and he goes like, "You never said." Like, I did like that one. It's like, because I think that's a great retort, and it's a great retort for I wouldn't say every universally in this situation, but I do feel like the "you didn't ask" kind of thing is a too easy thing that gets pulled out, and it's like, come on, like, people shouldn't be expected to like ask proactively about everything. Like, if something matters, please say so. And I just like that little shorthand there, because I actually hadn't heard. Maybe that's a common thing people say. I hadn't actually heard it till this. I think it was a really great retort. Like, you never said.
Yeah, and it really says a lot with so little. And this is an episode where you also realize Rose's selfishness in the extreme, and that she was the one who gave Mickey the cold shoulder. But then right at the end, when he leaves, she suddenly realizes what she had in Mickey. Yeah. And she's like, but what if I need you? And you're like, holy crap, Rose, that was the problem. You saw him through what he could do for you.
Well, maybe Rose is a bit thick, but
bit of a chav.
Away. But that's a lot of notes on Rise of the Cybermen and the Age of Steel, but there are also questions about this story that we have to get to, and those are the 4 questions to Doomsday. Well, the first question is, why did the randomizer take us here?
So I could return to Pete's world. No, the 10 years thing, I've already brought that up. The potentially crowded TARDIS. One thing I will have to say, our friend Dave Kitchen at the Doctor Who show made a point after Tooth and Claw that I made a note to follow up on and to look into, and then never did. But he thought that maybe the alternate, what if the evil plot had succeeded for Tooth and Claw would have explained Republican Britain. That we see in this, where there's a president, and there doesn't seem to be any reason to make Britain a republic in this, only that it's just one thing that's tweaked from the norm. Anyway, this is the randomizer reminding me that Dave said that, so I should probably look into it and get into my own personal alt history corner on how that would have happened, how it would have come about, because it's not at all clear in the story.
There is a little bit of just darkness hinted at. I mean, besides the Cybermen and Lumic and stuff like that, but there is a bit in the first part where Mickey encounters some cops and they say there's a curfew.
Yeah, some soldiers,
Huh. That's a little weird. I mean, they don't really develop that much, but it does sort of hint at maybe not everything's that great here in this this alternate world. And obviously it turns out
it's another nice little... It's another nice little line of dialogue that kind of that tells you. He says, "Where have you been, mate? Up there with the toffs," hinting that basically all of the posh people, the toffs, are in the Zeppelins. Very nice spare dialogue moment there. Good job, RTD. I mean Tom McRae.
Well, some of the toffs are also driving cars with vanity license plates, and my connection, of course, is that Pete 1 is Pete's license plate. How do I get that one, by the way? That was a good time, and it obviously echoes Doctor Who and the Silurians, where the Doctor won. Bessie, the license plate that we talked about extensively in that podcast. Go check it out. So we really did. So it wanted to give us, Randomizer also wanted to give us a shout out for 10 years. It also wanted to give us seasonally appropriate programming, because this is one of those Doctor Who stories where we know what date it's set on, not what year, but what date. We assume it's 2006, but it's February the 1st. Mickey picks up a newspaper and says February the 1st. Now, doesn't explain why there are leaves on the trees in Britain and why everyone's, not wearing 3 layers of clothing, or why there's sunshine in February in Britain. Are you kidding me? What kind of random universe is this? It's crazy. But February the 1st. Now, this show is going out. We dropped the show on January the 31st. We dropped this show ready for the 20th anniversary of when Rise of the Cybermen was supposed to be set. Well, I will correct you there. I'm sorry. I have to bring out my mega nerd hat, and which is that all of the stories in the Tennant timeline, the Eccleston Tennant timeline, post World War III, are 1 year in the future from when they're broadcast, because Rose is in the TARDIS for a year, or she doesn't come back until a year later. So technically, this is set in February 1st, 2007.
2007. Could have fooled me with that model of phone, Rose. 2007.
Right? Where's your crazer?
Have an iPhone.
Yeah, totally. There's that, but it is, we'll keep the date. It's still February 1st.
Extraordinary, right?
Yeah, it did it.
Thanks, Ryan.
So, sorry to be the evil person to burst your bubble on the date, but that's all about evil plot succeeding. It leads us to the second question, which is, what if the evil plot had succeeded? All right, so the evil plot is Lumix, clearly, right?
And I would like to say one result of Lumix's evil plot that we know for sure, and actually someone should probably check up on in Pete's world, is cyber penguins. Because at one point he says he has a factory with these cyber designs ready to go on all 7 continents, right?
Right. All 7, yeah. Like in Antarctica too. That's probably a pretty quick conversion process.
Yeah, I really want to see that TARDISode That tiny little.
But if you think about it, you could have a factory there unimpeded, but like you'd have to ship the humans there. So I don't know if there's much point.
That's also interesting in the context of the 10th planet set in Antarctica, isn't it?
There was a book that was sort of sent in Antarctica, a Cybermen book, a new adventure. I think it was called Iceberg. It was actually written by David Banks. I remember it vaguely. It was not the greatest book, but it wasn't the worst either. But there was a bit where it doesn't matter what it was. But basically, like Cybermen and cold kind of go together, to your point about it being cold potentially in London on February 1st. You do kind of see the breath of a few people here and there. It apparently was cold when they were filming it because all the behind the scenes stuff has them in parkas. So and they did a decent job of mixing Cardiff and London. So
Britain gave them a nice mist for those outdoor shots where we first see the Cybermen in focus. There was actual real mist that they didn't need to pump in, which is fantastic. But so we get a lot of cyber penguins for sure if the evil plot succeeds. What else do we get? Just all of humanity becomes Mondas, basically?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like I say, you have to think that the Cybermen are smarter than they are at the end, and they are not rewarding people by force, which was a weird thing to do, and bring everyone into the heart of their base, which is to say the Doctor and Rose and Pete Tyler. And so you have to assume they were got the code's never sent. The Cybermen conquer London. They subsequently conquer the whole Earth. Do they then still come to the parallel world? I guess. And maybe they just become a cyber empire, and maybe this just ends up becoming like the cyber dimension, where the Cybermen are effectively the conquerors instead of the Daleks or whoever else.
Okay,
it's kind of boring.
Yeah, well, I kind of like the idea of, we talk about what was the last possible moment where this could happen. And I want to use that for bringing up the great line where we sort of mentioned this briefly. All reject stock will be incinerated is announced by the cyber announcer. And I kind of wanted Pete to, adopt his kind of wide boy entrepreneur stance at that point. Reject stock, incinerate. It's a fire sale. Let me sell that for you. I can get that. I'm
literally a fire sale.
Incinerating all that reject stock, I can get it for you, devil. But yeah, so he can't, but be an entrepreneur in that moment, and that's the trigger. But no, so cyber world less boring. And
Cybermen are inherently boring. So I kind of like that outcome. I do like, there's a bit there too, right, where I think Cybermen Adventures are great. I mean, the Cybermen, you can tell from, like, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm kind of a fan of the monster. But the fact that they are this cold, logical sort of humans absent emotions thing, I think they do make some statements about it, about how boring it would be if it was a cyber world, if you know what I mean, right? And so
when you get rid of all doctors,
I'm trying to think of the Doctor's line where he goes, the Cybermen won't advance. That's what he kind of says. Like, they'll just stop because they'll have no imagination and they'll have no emotions. And I think that's very smart. And it also sort of, I love how some of this stuff backfills things from the classic series, because the Daleks, because they're emotional, that's the key to them, I think, becoming this big race that ends up conquering the universe in some, Time Lord projected futures, and they also develop time travel. Whereas the Cybermen have never on their own developed time travel, probably because it requires imagination, and they don't have it. So there are kind of like this dead end. I like that idea that that's what they are. And sort of mixed in with all this. Again, lots of shorthand, like just a really good script and sort of like for the Cybermen themselves.
Yes, you'll stay like this forever, a metal Earth with metal men and metal thoughts, lacking the one thing that makes this planet so alive. People. Ordinary, stupid, brilliant people. Love that. One of the Doctor's better speeches, you have to say.
Yeah, absolutely. And really gets across, what these monsters are. All right. Well, that's a good vision of what that evil plot succeeding looks like. But it's time to move on to the third question, which is, where is the Clara Splinter? Clara Oswald, of course, splintered in time at the end of The Name of the Doctor. She's somewhere in every single Doctor Who story. Where is she in Rise of the Cybermen and The Age of Steel?
Well, here we get into the thorny question of could there be Clara Splinters in alternate realities? I guess if she's just following the Doctor's timeline, then she has to come here too.
Right.
Which, by the way, yeah, I sort of feel like we need a couple of scenes here. One of Clara in the TARDIS going, bloody hell, what's that? Who am I now? I'm supposed to be in this reality. I don't know what's going on. And then also invisible Sutek on the outside of the TARDIS going, bloody hell, what's happening? What? Oh, that was a bit, oh, the TARDIS is dead. How am I going to feed now? But anyway, yes, I like to think that Clara has to take care of the fact that the Doctor has just become a little bit Time Lord victorious in all of this, in the way that he's killing all these humans. She has to, I don't know, make it so that there's a point in the process where they're being taken out of themselves, and actually the thing that we hear in the chest unit with the woman who thought she was going to get married the next day is actually just a recording that Clara inserted just to make the Doctor think that this is what he needs to do, but she's somehow she's basically put them all down in a much more humane way beforehand.
Gotcha. Interesting thought. I kind of thought that, sorry, I alluded to this earlier. I think if there's a weakness of Rise of the Cybermen and Age of Steel, or the biggest weakness of it in my view, is that there are just too many plot conveniences at the end where the Cybermen don't kill Pete and Rose and instead take them to the base because they want to reward him by force. They don't kill the Doctor because they've apparently scanned him and he has this strange physiology that they want to examine. Okay, I can sort of buy the Doctor one. Why he's not killed, although it stretches my credulity to think that they would just proactively scan him. I think there's a missing line there where he goes like, no, don't kill me, scan me. Like, you're going to want to take me to your leader. And then they do. Like, in other words, like, as unbecoming as it might be, it would make more sense plot-wise if he begged for his life a little bit there, or at least outsmarted them. You can characterize it however you want. But the Rose Pete thing, just there's not really a lot there. Like, I don't get it. Like, what does even rewarding mean? Isn't the reward your upgrade? Like, why do you have to take him to Lumic? And then why does Lumic let them run their mouths off for so long? Again, like, I know this has to happen dramatically, but it is like there should be more of an excuse, really, to do this sort of final scene. So my view of Clara, to get to Clara, is that she was Cybus's HR manager. Or you could give her the title, just for irony's sake, head of people.
Hey.
And she runs all of the office parties, and all the birthdays there. And so somehow her file gets into the Cybermen's master program, which means the Cybermen must reward all Cybus employees, because the thing is, like, even if you buy that, oh, they're taking Pete to be rewarded because he's like a buddy of Lumix or whatever. He wasn't the inner circle. He wasn't Crane, like, he didn't know that he probably knew about the Cybermen because he had the whole thing with him, but he didn't know that he was bent on world domination. So it's like why would you want to reward this guy and not Crane,
It's kind of weird that Peter's Gemini, that this is revealed at some point that he's actually the guy on the inside who's been feeding the preachers information.
Yeah.
He claims. I don't think that's him, because part of Gemini's information, we've been told, is that Pete is a traitor. Peter's working with Lumic. So he just told on himself. So I think Clara's fingerprints are on that, certainly.
Yeah.
Clara's probably the real Gemini. But I also think that in order for Clara to basically anesthetize the cyber people so that the Doctor isn't actually murdering thousands of people, she has to be converted herself. She has to be part of the whole cyber mind here and just inject that little bit of humanity that prevents them from killing these people, that, allows them to take the Doctor hostage and, explain the evil plot and all of that, and just stand around when they should be killing them. That's Cyber Clara. She sacrificed herself so that others could live.
Nice going, Clara. Okay, moving on to the final question. The question that will tell you exactly what we thought about this episode. We're going to answer that in just a second after I tell you all about our website, which is pulltoopen.net. Why do you want to go to our website? Well, because that's where you subscribe to our newsletter. And like I said earlier, I have a ton of notes about this story. A bunch of them I didn't get to. But you will get all of them, every single thing that we have to say about Rise of the Cybermen and Age of Steel, if you subscribe to the newsletter. So it's a great way to get all full written notes on every story, as well as get reminded that we have a podcast. So you will get that right in your inbox. And at the moment we have new content, you can jump on it. Enjoy.
Yep. Seriously, check out Pete's notes. Every week there's something in Pete's world that is high quality content that we don't get to. So really sign up for the newsletter. And
I'd say it's a year ahead.
Hey, there you go.
It's time for the fourth and final question, the ultimate question, the most serious question, the only question that matters for Rise of the Cybermen and the Age of Steel. What did we think of this story? The Pull to Open rating system has 7 ratings. There is the Dalek, which we give to a good episode of Doctor Who. There is the Ogron, which we give to an irredeemably bad episode of Doctor Who. There's the Professor Hater, which we give to a not-so-great story, but hey, at least they tried something. The Viscount Banger, which we reserve for the best of the best. The Fixed Point in Time, which we is a story that is the beyond rating, usually for reasons of nostalgia. The Lady Cassandra, which is a story that has a paper-thin plot, but hey, at least it looks good. And the Zarbi, which is a story that is, really bad, but hey, it's actually kind of good. What do you say about this two-parter?
Well, this definitely improved on this viewing, and it definitely, for all of the reasons that I've talked about, the way that it tied into cyber lore in my head, I feel like I got it, Pete, for the first time. I feel like I'm in Pete's world now, in terms of the way that you see the Cybermen and their great potential, and the terror that comes with them, which is something I've really only seen before in World Enough and Time. But I started to see it all around. Like, I started to see the fact that, Pete, I'm now wearing 3 devices on my hands: my Oura Ring, my Whoop Band, my Apple Watch. I got this one because I wanted to get rid of these 2, but I can't. Like, I'm wanting all this information from all these different directions. So now I'm more cyber converted. I realize, looking around myself, I look around the world and I'm like, AI. You know, what if the Cybermen hallucinated like AI did? Like, there's so many stories that spin off. So I want to say this story has done so much for me that I sort of want to make it a Viscount Banger.
Sort of. You can do that.
But I'm not quite there. Because I think that there are just some, like, it's just a really, it's a good story. It's not necessarily best of the best story-wise. And I think that, I think if we'd had something to sympathize with Lumic, make him a little less two-dimensional, I think that would have helped. It just needed a little bit of extra, but I'm halfway there. So I don't know if I've done this before, but I'm going to give Rise of Cybermen, Age of Steel a Viscount Dalek.
Well, I'll tell you this. I am right there with you. Even though I've been raving about it this whole time, I think you can read in from what a lot of this story is good for. It's for fans. It's for hardcore fans of the show, and I wouldn't say it's for them. No, there's a lot here for casual viewers too. Don't get me wrong, but the to appreciate all of the things they did with the Cybermen, the story, the metaphors, and the parallel world stuff, I think you've increased appreciation if you're a fan of the story of the show and a fan of the Cybermen in particular. Unless you're like, if you're like a hardcore purist that they're for Mondas and blah 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 and all this like Pete's World, Lumic, Cybus stuff is dumb, then that's you're right, but it is, I think that's very close-minded. I think this is a really smart, really brilliant, like reimagining of the Cybermen that really, really works. But to your point, like if you're not in a position to appreciate that, you're just, oh yeah, it was a pretty good story, and I like the character stuff, and the monster was kind of neat, and the music was great. We didn't say anything about the music. I really like that there's sort of, this is the beginning of the cyber jingle, really, right? You know, like which has been used in really, I believe, every single appearance of the Cybermen since, this little bit from Murray Gold, where it's been like, you know, like it's a neat, it's good. Like the Daleks actually don't have anything comparable. Like, so kudos to Murray Gold giving that to the Cybermen. But it is all, you know, it's a really good, really smart story for Doctor Who, and for Cybermen fans, it's one of the best. So to your point, I'm giving it a hybrid rating too. This is it's a Dalek banger hybrid, basically. Because, yeah. Wow.
We have the same rating, the same hybrid, rating. Who created the same hybrids in parallel worlds, and now they're meeting for the first time. It's alive! Yes, we're required to say that, by the way.
They're both equally great. They can't upgrade each other.
They can't. And I do, as you were talking, I realized we haven't given a shout out to Graham Harper, the director.
Oh, yes.
If we
Tom McRae, the writer. You know, should have mentioned it.
Caves of Androzani was his was probably his high point, but this, what he does here is extraordinary, because I think this is a bit of a, ironically, the story was a bit spare parts in that, you know, RTD was just rewriting what this young writer who didn't really know the Cybermen had got on board, and there was a long rewrite process. So, you know, that script needed delicate handling, and Graham Harper really, just the pacing of it, extraordinary. Good job, sir.
Fantastic. All right. Well, we've got 5 minutes, less even, to get into our time ship and get back to our universes here. So let's do that. And once we do that, I think we need to activate the randomizer.
We do. Pausing only to wonder, what was the joke that everyone got in their headpieces? What was the joke? I've asked ChatGPT what the joke was, and the result has proved that ChatGPT is not and will never be a comedian. You'd sooner see a Cyberman and stand up. Anyway, we've stopped wondering that. We've stepped into our randomizer. That has two components. Pete has the control of one of them. He has the complete list of all cyber stories and, weirdly, non-cyber stories in the order they were broadcast. And I sit at the controls of the other part of the randomizer, the executor that is not the codex, that's Pete's part, that lives in Pete's world. Here over in the other parallel dimension, we have the randomizer, played by random.org, which bounces off cyber mats in the atmosphere. It's a bit of a mat catcher.
Perhaps?
A mat catcher, if you like. Cyber mites, yes, them too. Particles of gold in the atmosphere. There are actually some of them. So anyway, I enter the minimum number and the maximum number. Pete, in the codex, what is the total number of stories that we have yet to visit?
It'd be 163.
163. That's right. We have reached the 63 part of that. The Doctor Who's birth year number, the Pull to Open 63. It's all happening, folks. We're getting close to the halfway point, which will be at 160.5, we have recently determined. So we're getting close.
Oh, that's not a Rise of the Cybermen reference, I'm realizing. It actually is. You're right.
Yes, it's getting close. It's the upgrade. The upgrade of Pull to Open is in full effect. And the upgrade, just wait to see what we will upgrade ourselves to once we get to the halfway point. I know, I'm curious about that. But Pete, before... In my universe, we used to ask the randomizer for requests of where it would take us next. So if you would like to adopt that weird custom, what do you want to see after this?
Yeah, I would love to see... we've seen the origin of something just now. I would love it if we see the end of something. Ooh. Something that isn't just the end of the thing in the story, if you know what I mean. Like, let's see the end of some kind of arc or some kind of villain, creature, storyline, etc. Give us a show.
Maybe like a false ending for the Daleks. I'm thinking of like Evil of the Daleks, the way that was intended to be. The final end of the Daleks. I like that idea. I'm so tempted to triple Yahtzee this. No. Because I feel like we've been pointing in the direction of World Enough and Time.
No!
the Doctor
triple
wants.
Yahtzee it. No, go ahead. That would
so
be
tempted
that
to
would
do
satisfy
that.
both of us because that's an ending for sure.
Right? It's definitely an ending. It's got the Doctor Who question. It's got, you know, the ultimate upgrade stuff, the real spare parts kind of, you know, vibe to it. And it's sort of, it is, you've got to say that according to Doctor Who magazine, it is the best rated story that we've not yet been to. So I'm not actually going to triple Yahtzee this. I'm going to say, Randomizer, give us something on a theme of World Enough and Time. Whatever you consider that to be.
Okay.
I will, yeah.
Work. All right. Let's fire it up. Somewhere between 1 and 163 is what we need.
All right.
You ready?
I will hit the generate button as soon as Mickey Smith gets a Cyberman to punch the control panel. So if you could arrange that.
Okay.
Or give me a countdown, one of the two.
Here we go. I got him right here. It is in 3, 2, 1.
Pull.
Moisturize me.
And we've got 27. We're going
27. No, we're back in time again. We are
Yeah,
back
we're in
in
the classic
time. It's finally happened.
What?
The Sea Devils.
The Sea Devils! Holy moly! Oh my goodness!
Too
Salt and
perfect, my man.
tide. It's too perfect. Holy crap! I will gladly. By the way, you can request a screenshot of my random.org result if you don't believe that we, after asking for the Sea Devils and doing the Silurians and talking about the war between the land and the sea, if you don't believe we've actually gone there, we did. I've got the time stamp on it and everything, number 27. There it is.
It's perfect. This is, At some
The
point, we're going
randomizer
to, get to.
given us our intro into talking about the war between.
Totally. Nice.
Wow.
Well, as we await our review of the Sea Devils as well as the War Between to arrive in Disney Plus and the rest of the world, folks, we're going to leave you this week. This has been Pull to Open. This has been a podcast. A podcast is our great thing. Podcasters are great things
That's
to
what
listen
plural in my
to.
universe.
They're also great things to subscribe to follow, but most of all, they're great things to share with a friend. Please leave a review on the Apple Podcast app if you can. A rating on Spotify, that'd be amazing. Oh, and by the way, rate the episode. I forgot to mention after we rated the Rise of the Cybermen, the Age of Steel. This is your cue, if you're listening on Spotify, to go to the bottom of the screen, go vote in our poll. Let us know if you think it is a Dalek, Ogron, Professor Hater, Viscount Banger, Fixed Point in Time, Lady Cassandra, or Zarbi, and we will report those findings in a future episode of Pull to Open. Thanks again to Martin West for our music. It always makes us sound just a little bit more professional. And we will see you deep beneath the sea next time to talk all about the Sea Devil.
Yes. And the clangers. So I'll be practicing my whistle. See you then, folks.